Hey guys, welcome back to the studio for another lesson. Today we're going to be tackling a super fun and versatile concept. This lesson is going to be all about pentatonics and how we can use them in our improvised solos to get a more modern and angular sound than a more traditional approach would give us. We'll start out by reviewing the typical guitar-friendly pentatonic boxes, as well as learning how to stretch and play them as a 3-note per string pattern. Then, I'll show you guys 4 common patterns for pentatonic runs that you've probably heard in a ton of great solos by your favorite artists. Finally, I'll share with you guys 3 phrases that I cooked up that use these ideas over a simple 2-5 in B-flat major. You guys ready? Let's get into it. Pentatonic scales can be an incredible gateway to a more modern sound in your solos. Before we can start tackling how to make use of them in an improvisation and all the different substitution principles involved in that, we should make sure we're all squared up on the technique side of things. Just in case you haven't put a huge amount of time into practicing these shapes, I'm going to show you guys how I like to practice the 5 pentatonic boxes. Check those out now in the key of C minor, E flat major. Notice how I always sidestep the last note in each box and then descend? I do that to keep things rhythmically on track, as well as to make the picking in my right hand super even. By doing this, I always end up with a consistent flow to my alternate picking. That makes it super predictable, and that's much easier to get these up to really ripping tempos. We can also play our pentatonic scales across the neck by playing 3 notes on a string. This can result in some crazy stretches at times, so practice these super slow if you've never worked on it before. Check how that works now. Playing the pentatonic scale that way is a serious handbuster. It's really fun to rip through once you get it moving though. Now speaking of ripping, up next, we're going to put these pentatonic patterns to work by learning some common sequences that we could use in our improvisations. But before we do that, I just want to give a quick shout out to the incredible people over at TrueFire.com. TrueFire is an online lesson library that's host to literally thousands of courses on a wide range of musical topics from some really amazing artists and educators. With synced notation and tablature, as well as slowdown and looping features, it's super easy to follow along no matter what course you decide to pick up. While you wait for my courses to drop, you can use my link in the description or use offer code STUDIO for 35% off at checkout, and you'll also be supporting the channel at the same time. It's never been a better time to learn, practice, and play with TrueFire. Now, let's get back to the lesson by checking out those pentatonic sequences. This first pattern is just ascending through the pentatonic scale in sequences of 4 from each note of the scale. That seems like it'd be simple enough to do, but my goal is to be able to fire these out at breakneck speeds. Now to do that, and cover the whole range of the instrument, I have to do a lot of shifting to make both the fingering and the picking as economical as possible. Here, take a look at the first pattern and you'll see what I mean. Notice how I did that sidestep at the end of the pattern again, even though I didn't actually descend through the scale? In this case, it kind of works almost like a pivot when we're doing an arpeggio. We can do that move off the end of any pentatonic sequence to either resolve harmonically or to make things line up rhythmically to turn around and change the direction of the line. In this next pattern, we'll descend through the scale using the same type of sequencing. Let's try that one out now. There's actually a little bit more room to descend further than I took it, but I wanted to stop on a note that made some kind of harmonic sense, so as to keep the sound of the scale in my ears. Obviously, there's more than one approach to the left hand for all these patterns, so feel free to experiment and try out different places to shift and find the fingering that works best for you. These are just the ones that I've spent the most time inside of, and they feel super comfortable for me to play. This next pattern is going to be a little bit different. Rather than just ascending or descending, we're going to combine skips and steps in the pentatonic in order to create a unique shape for our sequence. Take a look at what I mean. This is such a fun pattern to play, and now things are really starting to sound more like what you might expect when you use this kind of an approach in your improvised solos. In today's final pattern, we're going to reverse the direction of the sequence that we just played, and we'll use it to descend the scale. Check that one out now. Before you go hog wild and try putting these sequences in all of your solos, I'd really encourage you to spend some time living in these patterns for a while. Really get them in your bones so that you don't have to think about them at all when you're playing them. In next week's lesson, we're going to start combining these different patterns and working them through different cycles of chord changes. Now, just to give you guys a quick preview for that, I'll show you 3 phrases that I cooked up over a 2-5 in B-flat. All of these phrases use the same 2 pentatonic scales over a 2-5 in B-flat. For the 2 and the 5 chord, we're going to use that C minor E-flat major pentatonic. That's going to give us a really grounded sound on the 2 chord, but a kind of open, suspended sound for the 5 chord. Over the 1 chord, we'll use D minor or F major pentatonic. Since we're playing a minor pentatonic off the 3rd, or a major pentatonic off the 5th, depending on your perspective, we'll get a really inside major 9 sound over that chord. Check out those 3 phrases now. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. Let me know down in the comments if you guys have a favorite pentatonic pattern, especially if it's one I didn't cover today. This approach to playing over chord changes has a lot of mileage, so we're going to be spending the next few weeks going over some different aspects of using pentatonic scales in our solos. As always, if you found today's lesson helpful, make sure you give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell for notifications. If you want to get access to the PDF for today's lesson, along with the whole back catalog for all the videos on the channel, you can get that over at my Patreon page for as little as $10 a month, or by just hitting that join button right here on YouTube. Studio member and higher patrons also get access to bonus videos as well. A big thank you to Ron Maestas and Louis Rosen for being studio fans. I really appreciate the support. A huge thank you is due to these awesome studio members for their support as well. PH, David Zuckerbraun, Max Irwin, Everton Armstrong, Jay Jarek, Stephen Schwartz, Jay Montana, Skemster, Aaron Walters, Dorian Marley, Stephen Prager, Edson Suarez, Bill Atterbury, Artie Sanchez, Gia Theobald, Pedro Santos, Zé Soares, Todd Stupnik, and Michael LeBroy. An extra special shout out to Jazz Luminaire patrons Bebop Bobbity and Bill Jacob. Thank you guys all so much for your continued support. I'm David Shore, and thanks so much for hanging with me at the studio today. I'll see you guys next time.